You ask, when you enter a distressed company, show me the books. But when the books are hocus pocus, you bet there's malfeasance. You hear a company doing a big accounting revision, you dump the stock. Separating capital and operational expenditures never worked. It's been tried and failed. The Prime Minister should be honest about his government's failure. Fess up to the gazillion schmazillion dollar deficit. Do not cook Canada's books, because mark my words, it will undermine confidence in our country and it will bankrupt our nation. Please, do not cook Canada's books. Speaker, after the Soviet Union, I lived in Israel till age 15. I lived in the Holy Land during the first Intifada. Now I apologize, colleagues, but this is important. When a Hamas terrorist assembles a suicide vest, they pack it with as many nails as possible. It's true. So when the suicide vest goes off, it blinds as many people as possible and cuts as many limbs as possible. I watch Tel Aviv bus number 5 blow up on TV every other week. That was the first Intifada. And now they chant, "Viva, viva, Intifada" in my riding in North Toronto. So I'm back to the future. Again, I'm here to alert my fellow Canadians and all of you in this room. Beware of the Intifada. Beware of jihad coming to Canada. There's no Zionist occupation in Syria, but more than 1 million people were killed in a civil war. In Yemen in the last decade, almost 500,000 people murdered. In Rwanda and Sudan, millions of Muslims murdered. No Zionists in sight. An offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood is murdering black Muslims in Sudan right now. A real genocide, not a word from the Liberals. That's why many Muslims come to Canada, to escape jihad, to escape that hell. It's shameful, Speaker, that the words Intifada are now chanted in Canada. And I'm a free speech guy, because jihad is incitement to violence and it's dangerous. Beware of jihad picking up steam in Canada. That is the historical perspective I bring to this Parliament, Speaker. But wait, I have another historical perspective. It's Canada, because I'm Exhibit A for the Canadian Promise. We landed at Pearson when I was 15 on September 5, 1995, and we came directly to Shepherd and Bathurst in the heart of York Centre. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in the middle of the night. I looked out the window and I saw Earl Bales Park. And across the park, on the other side, Yonge Street lights and towers. And it was beautiful. And I was in love from day one. And we didn't have a cent to our name. And I remember what true poverty was like. My father sold ice cream on those yellow bicycles. My mother was an unemployed teacher. But Canada had given me every opportunity to study, to work, and to succeed. Because all you ever needed to do to succeed in Canada is work hard and be nice to people. That's it. And now I'm elected to the House of Commons by the same community that welcomed me as an immigrant. Dreams come true, Speaker, but not in the Canada before these Liberals. Dreams came true all the time for many Canadians. Now a quarter of Canadians can't afford food. It's shameful, Mr. Speaker. That's why I'm here, and that's why our Conservative team is here, Speaker, to help Pierre Poilievre.
Questions and comments, questions, commentaires. The member will be able to continue. The member for Eglinton Lawrence.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also, the member from York Centre and I have known each other for quite a while, and I want to congratulate him on his victory. He talked a lot about the Jewish community, which, as you know, Eglinton Lawrence has a large and vibrant community. Does the honourable member support this government's plan to bring in security zone and bubble zone legislation?
The member for York Centre.
I am pleased for my municipal counterpart for introducing that legislation. We will see if it will survive charter scrutiny. What I don't appreciate is that the Liberal government in 2017 repealed a Stephen Harper law Bill C-51, that made it illegal and contrary to the criminal code to promote terrorism. They repealed that provision that would help to address many of the things we're seeing right now on the streets of Toronto and across the nation. Promoting terrorism should not be lawful on Canada's streets.
Questions et commentaires, questions and comments. The member for Peace River Westlock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague for the great speech that he gave. Canada wasn't always like this, and the Liberals across the way want us to think that we just happened to get here. But it's been a decade of Liberal failures that have brought many of the things that this member has talked about. I'm just wondering if the honourable member has any more comments he'd like to add to that effect. Thank you.
Member for York Centre.
I appreciate that. As I was saying in my remarks, Speaker, all you had to do to succeed in Canada is work hard and be nice to people. If you did that, you'd be assured a pretty good standard of living. But after 10 years of this Liberal government, a quarter of Canadians are worried about affording food. Over 2 million people are using the food bank. It's shameful. That's why we were elected, my friends. That's why we're here. To help Pierre Poilievre restore the Canadian promise that it doesn't matter where you come from, you can afford food and live in a safe neighborhood. And it doesn't matter where you're from. Dreams do come true because Canada is the best country in the world.
Questions et commentaires. Le député pour Repentigny.
Monsieur le Président, j'aimerais savoir...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard a lot about the costs of living, economic issues.
Okay, folks, see if this thing, checking it out. It's working. All right, I know. Sorry about the sound quality of my microphone. I got my other microphone I've been working on, and this is. I thought that was a really good speech. At the end, I think I'm going to play his whole thing, and it's Baber who got in it. I actually won't mention his past. I'll just let that be, and hope going forward he isn't, and none of these things happen forward. And definitely we got some trolling, eh? Hey, hi trolls. There's only a few of us here, but basically what we're having is question period. Robin Baba, here he is again. Oh, sorry, I'm going to put him on.
Of course, Conservatives, government, I agree that all Canadians should get back as much of their own money as possible. And right now, this Liberal government is offering a $240 tax cut roughly per person. That's $20 a month. That's nothing. It's breadcrumbs. The finance minister stands in the House every day and says that 22 million Canadians are going to be getting a tax cut, a $20 tax cut. Of course, Conservatives support all tax cuts. But we urge this government to do more because all across Canada, including Quebec, Canadians cannot afford this government anymore. We need more tax relief for all Canadians.
Questions and comments. The member for Vancouver East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Judging from that speech, I guess it explains the member's position and how Pierre Poilievre actually called community.
MP Jenny Kwan. I knew some Kwans. They are Korean. Just by the way, I actually the closest I could come to loving a store owner. He sold baseball cards and stuff. It was great. And then sometimes he'd make you do the bartering, and it was early learning for me. I have a lot of respect because he didn't. It was I guess the first time as a child. It was an independent thought I had. And independent thinking, buying and selling baseball cards. Back then, there was like adults that sometimes would go in there and buy things. And on this Kwan, there was one card missing. I bought it was $80 of my buying and selling cards, and there was one card missing from 94. I don't know. My mom gave me one cards. 1994 hockey cards. They were Upper Deck. They were called Upper Deck. They were like the premier ones. But there was one card missing out of the whole thing. And I went and told him, and I'm like, listen, there's one card. He's like, oh, I must have. Because what he did, he was smart. He, instead of buying the sets, I know I'm going off on something, but hey, I like this. So he would open the things and make sets himself, open the cards, because he was selling the cards, and then sell the cards. Okay, I guess I'm looking at the wrong thing. And then he'd sell the you know what I mean, the whole set for much more than worth, And he missed one card was missing, and I'm like, there's one card missing because I checked all the players, and he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll get it for you. And I don't know, time went on, and I pretty much gave up. And then he's like, oh. I'm sorry about it, mangling the accent. I have something for you. He spoke very talk, you know what I mean, like he was doing karate all the time. And I have one for you. He runs over and he gives the card. Gave me the card. Respect. That was my first. And like a few of the parents in that neighborhood called that store something I won't even, you know what I mean. And I never understood. I'm like, why? He's like the best. As far as I was concerned, it was the best store around. He had the stuff. You know what I mean? It wasn't even the biggest, but he knew what people wanted. He'd ask. I don't know. So Jenny Kwan, automatically, because of my history with that last name, she's not related, by the way. Zero, no relation. But because of that, I like her, right? I like her a lot. And turns out the commies were targeting her, and she was told by CSIS, by CSIS that she was being targeted by the commies. And lo and behold, sorry, I keep on thinking I want to get my little bit of a there. Well, I guess it's got to go up. I don't know. Yeah. So she was told she was targeted. She fought back. All kinds of things like this happened. It was a big, I believe, a big deal. And then not much has come of it. I honestly don't know. Her and Chong were basically in the same boat. No pun intended, literally. And they definitely. There was like the judges thing, but I don't know what happened to protect them going forward. There's been some bills passed forward, but it seems like it's just, it went away, time healed it. But I don't believe that to be the case. I think there needs more to be action on it. Though saying all that, Donald Trump was going to take the majority of the error of that government with his tariff war. Okay. Sorry, it's crooked. I'll straighten it up in a second. Here's Miss Jenny Kwan from the NDP.
Housing, co-op housing, as Soviet style of housing. I get that because anything to do with supporting the community on the whole, according to the member's speech, it seems that he's alleging that that's communism. So now he says he supports tax cuts. So let me ask him this question, Mr. Speaker. The craft brewery community and distilleries are hit with an unfair excise tax. And in fact, it is one that should be changed. So my question to the member is, would he actually support changing the excise tax, the tax rate, so that Canadian domestic craft brewers and distillers would not have to pay the same rate as the two largest foreign and owned businesses here in Canada operating in the industry?
Member for York Centre, 20 seconds or less.
Speaker, I will always support all tax cuts, as I'm sure all of my friends will on this side of the House. And shame on the Liberal government during the worst crisis of affordability in our nation's history, actually increasing the alcohol tax. Conservatives and myself are in favor of all tax cut, and I would not exclude the excise tax as well.
Resuming debate, the member for North Island, Powell River.
Second World War, that doesn't sound much like harm reduction to me.
And you know, they say the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right? So how about instead of handing out free drugs, we get these, our fellow Canadians, into treatment, we get them into recovery, and we return them to being healthy, productive members of our society once again. At the same time, we need to repeal the soft-on-crime liberal legislation like Bill C-75 and Bill C-5 that have reduced jail time for serious offenders and granted near-automatic bail for career criminals. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it seems the only people who are ever punished for anything anymore under the Liberals and NDP are those who actually work for a living and follow the law, whether it's our law-abiding firearm owners who have been targeted and demonized by their own government, small business owners who have been taxed and regulated to the point of insolvency, or our resource workers, as I mentioned, who have had their jobs threatened, their careers denigrated, and in some cases, their livelihoods destroyed. Right now in Canada, in so many ways, it feels as if right side up is upside down and common sense no longer exists. And that brings me to the cultural erosion that we've seen, the tearing down of statues, the erasing of our history. I was there in Victoria the day this corrosive ideology all began, when they toppled the monument to the man who built this country and without whom Canada wouldn't even exist. The truth is, this country has so much to celebrate and so much to be proud of, and we owe an infinite debt of gratitude to all those who came before us, to the prime ministers, both Liberal and Conservative, whose portraits are hanging just outside these chamber walls, who laid the foundation for what would become and for what still is the greatest country in the world. And they laid those foundations, Mr. Speaker, by being bold, by being daring, and getting things done. In the late 1800s, Canada was a small country, divided by language and religion, and surrounded by a larger and much more powerful neighbor to our south. Yet in that historical context, we completed what many consider to be this country's greatest engineering and political feat, the Canadian Pacific Railway. Championed by Prime Minister Sir John A. Macdonald, most don't know that the bulk of the work took just 4 years to complete through some of the most difficult and expansive terrain in the world, across the Canadian Shield, through the Canadian Rockies. It was the key to bringing my province, the province of British Columbia, into Confederation. Now, can you imagine, in the current political, regulatory, and cultural climate of today, if we tried as a nation to undertake a similar feat? Instead of championing these kinds of nation-building projects, government today seems to be actively plotting against them. But it doesn't have to be this way. Macdonald dreamed big. Sir Wilfrid Laurier dreamed big as well, and we can dream big once again. And the truth, Mr. Speaker, is that the silver lining to this problem lies in its solution, is that we don't need the government to step up in any particular way. We just need the government to get out of the way and give this country back to those who built it, the people. And that begins where this country draws its greatest sources of strength, the wealth of its resources and the ingenuity of its citizens. And I intend to do my part, Mr. Speaker, to always be a voice for the hardworking citizens of my riding and this incredible country, to always be unapologetically proud to be Canadian, and to always be guided, no matter what, by what is true and what is right, not by what is politically correct. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The member for Winnipeg North.
So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I and many of my colleagues have been able to witness the far right in the Conservative Party is alive and well within the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre today. Today's Conservatives, I would suggest to you, Mr. Speaker, are in fact in need of... Oh, I saw the Speaker stand up. I thought maybe I was... to get you to calm down a little bit there. Mr. Speaker, the bottom line, and the question I have for the member is, can he share with the House his honest reflections on what residential schools are about, or were about?
Okay. So we stop here, but it's 2 o'clock. But it's 2 o'clock we start. I believe the member for North Island, Powell River, has right to response after...
No, he can respond.
Oh, he can respond now?
Yeah.
Okay. Please respond, yes.
Mr. Speaker, the member across the way is once again continuing the proud Liberal tradition of spreading misinformation. I have never denied anything about the horrors that occurred in residential schools, but the Liberals are just trying to once again distract from their horrible record on the economy of doubling the national debt, of increasing violent crime by more than 50% over the past 10 years, and by leaving this country weaker and more vulnerable to intimidation and terrorists from the United States.
There will be time remaining in questions and comments after a question period, 3.5 minutes remaining. Statements by members, déclaration des députés.
All right, statements by members. This goes on for 15, 20 minutes. I think all of you know. I think by accident, there's only one person commenting, but I think by accident something happened to your voice. I'll make sure we got that here. Something happened. Gwen, who I don't know who you are. I don't know. Probably someone I know. Upload defaults? No. Question moderation. Oh, you're there with Calvin. Oh, Calvin. Make me a millionaire was the other guy. Anyway. Okay, so this Jean-Paul Danko. Okay, where'd you get that name from? I guess it's he's from Ancaster. Like the paintings. I didn't paint any. I painted this one. I was like, and I'm going to talk about it for a second. Well, just for a minute. Sorry, folks. It's like carry thy cross and walk on water. That's what it means while it's raining. That's kind of what it meant. And then there's that because I can't do. I haven't done the patience in so long of doing sketching and stuff like that. I with both hands. I just was frustrated with it. I got to get back into it to relearn my art. But this is from a local artist. It's nice moon, like the moon. The wolf, which to me it reminds me of the never-ending story, which is hunger. Mindful of your hunger. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Mindful of your hunger. The savage hunger that will destroy the world. And then this one, which is the Golden Mountain, flowers in time. And then we have, I love this one. This one's basically, I call it Space Cafe. It's space. And then there's Solomon's Keys, the Leafs. Really, really, I love this one. The birch trees with the sunlight. I love birch trees. I don't know about you people, but birch forest, there's something magical about them. And then Freebird right there reminds me of Leonard Skinner back in the day when I used to go to parties. Back in the day, the people would put Leonard Skinner on repeat. We'd like, you know what I mean? You would own 2-3 Skinner CDs, and they would be on repeat. It was, you can tell, country. And then above right here is the books, the books that I have to write. I've been writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. No one's reading, but I'm writing, and hopefully one day they'll be thinking, no AI, that's why the spelling mistakes. And let them speak. Thanks for watching. We're live. We are live right up to the second.
Defend and protect them. And
speaking in French.
It's important for me to thank the people of Morin Heights who gave me their confidence as mayor for the last 16 years, and I'm certain that I will be able to continue to defend all members of the riding of Pays d'en-Haut. Thank you.
Member for Niagara West.
Mr. Speaker, this is my first time rising in the House of Commons after a hard-fought election. I wholeheartedly thank the constituents of Niagara West for putting their trust in me for the 8th consecutive time. But I couldn't have done any of this without the hard work and the dedication of our excellent campaign team who got the job done. We had dozens and dozens of extraordinary volunteers. Thank you for all the work you did on our campaign. Rain or shine, cold or hot, they never gave up. Even on those chilly, windy days, courtesy of our Great Lake, Ontario. Sign crews, door knockers, and many others, the best team in Canada. I will always remember and appreciate it. I would also like to thank my friends and family, my kids and my staff. But the biggest thank you goes to my wife, Rebecca. Rebecca is an amazing woman, and I can assure you she has lots of patience. Thank you, Rebecca, for standing as a team as we once again take this journey together. And now, It's time to get back to hard work. Canada's needed us these challenging times. Conservatives are here to work tirelessly on their behalf, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the people of Bourassa for the great honour of representing them here in the House of Commons. It's a huge honor, and I also want to send a message to my colleagues. Despite our differences, we all share the same commitment to serve with integrity, to listen, and to serve with humility as we represent the voice of those who put us here. Let's make this Parliament a moment of progress and respect for all Canadians. We are here to bring about change despite any challenge that we face. Every word that will be spoken here in this House can change lives. I will share with my colleagues a quote from Nelson Mandela, who said, "Everything seems impossible until it's done. So let's make this Parliament a place where the impossible can be done."
The Honourable Member for Prince Albert.
Before I begin, I'd like to thank the residents of the riding of Prince Albert for my re-election, me as their Member of Parliament. As members of this House are aware, my home province of Saskatchewan is experiencing one of the worst starts to the wildfire season on record. More than 500,000 hectares have been burned, and as of Sunday afternoon, 20 communities remained under evacuation orders. 15 active wildfires are forcing residents from communities such as Timber Bay, Hall Lake, Pelican Narrows to flee their homes. Premier Scott Moe recently spoke about the value of developing a national investment strategy, one where critical resources like air tankers can be owned by the country and shared across jurisdictions to meet the surge capacity when and where needed. It is about protecting our communities, our forests, and our future. Thank you to the firefighters and emergency personnel who are putting themselves at great risk to protect our communities. And please, let us all pray for rain.
The Honourable Member for Cardigan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having spent most of my life as a dairy farmer in eastern Prince Edward Island, I'd like to take this opportunity to raise a glass to all the dairy farmers across this nation. As you may know, World Milk Day was June 1st. It's a day celebrated around the world. It highlights the nutritional value of milk and recognizes the hard work of our dairy farmers, the women and men who work so hard every day to provide safe and nutritious milk to Canadians. With over 9,000 Canadian dairy farms, the dairy sector supports over 270,000 full-time jobs in communities in every province across this country. A healthy, vibrant dairy sector brings stability to both rural and urban communities while supporting the vitality of its related industries. I'm proud to be a Canadian dairy farmer, to be the son of a dairy farmer, the father of another, and to coin a phrase from the members opposite, I come from boots, not suits. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' throne speech was 2,500 words, yet there wasn't one mention of the opioid crisis or the unprecedented crime wave caused by their policies. Last week in my hometown of Williams Lake, the City Council passed a motion to declare a state of emergency in response to the rising rates of vandalism, open drug use, arson, theft, overdose, and public indecency. Businesses can't even secure the mandatory insurance due to the high rates of vandalism. Meanwhile, the city is experiencing between 20 and 30 overdoses per day. City Councillor Scott Nelson said this: "The rates of crime, vandalism, drugs, and overdoses have skyrocketed and it's out of control. Williams Lake, a population of 10,000, 6 prolific offenders commit over 98% of the crime. When they're in jail, the crime rate goes down. When they're out, it skyrockets. This new government must finally take the fentanyl crisis seriously, get tough on crime, lock up repeat offenders, and keep our communities safe."
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes, Verchères. In New France in 1724, 4 brothers under the age of 20, François, Jacques, Jean, and Pierre Archambault, settled on the banks of the Richelieu River on land that was then part of the Contrecoeur Seigneurie. They were joined by other families until they were numerous enough in 1750 to build their own church. After the deportation of 1755, they welcomed many refugees who settled in what is now known as the Rang de l'Acadie. And on November 23, 1837, thanks to reinforcements from Saint-Antoine, the Patriotes won the victory at Saint-Denis, and among them was a certain Georges-Étienne Cartier, who later changed allegiance. Today, Saint-Antoine has retained all of its charm and all of its history, and my ancestor, François Guertin, could never have imagined as he cleared his land that 300 years later, one of his descendants would be in Parliament to celebrate the 275th anniversary of his village, one of those beautiful villages on earth. Happy 275th anniversary to all the men and women of Saint-Antoine.
Member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I am honoured, as are my colleagues, to rise in the House for the 45th Parliament to say thank you to the constituents of Humber River, Black Creek for giving me the great opportunity and privilege of representing them for the 10th time here in Ottawa. I want to thank my tireless husband, Sam, my children, Kathy, Deanna, and Sam, for their continued support. A special thanks to my son-in-law, Graziano, for his immense support during the election, and daughter-in-law, Claudia, and the grandchildren. My staff, Amy, Albert, Abby, Stephanie, and Zanya, for their dedication to helping the residents of Humber River, Black Creek every day. I would not have been elected and re-elected without the tireless efforts of the many volunteers during the campaign. To name a few, Terrell, Chris, Juan, Marina, Chris, Dave, Miss Emma, and Marianne. There are many more I would like to acknowledge, however my time is unfortunately limited. I will continue to honor my oath to serve our community of Humber River, Black Creek, dedication and integrity as we work together to build a better Canada. Thank you.
Full member for Sudbury East, Manitoulin, Nickel Belt.
Mr. Speaker, last week this Liberal government tabled a $486 billion spending bill. The Prime Minister promised during the election that he would govern Canada with the new fiscal discipline. Well, Mr. Speaker, it seems like we have a case of meet the new boss just as the same as the old boss. While many people in Northern Ontario struggle to make ends meet with the ever-increasing costs of everyday life, the Liberals don't get it. They seem to talk a good game of fiscal restraint, but talk is cheap, unlike the cost of living. The Prime Minister's first bill does nothing to ease the burden of skyrocketing mortgage payments, groceries, and energy. Instead, it increases government spending by 8%, including a 36% increase for consultants. When will the Liberals put the interests of everyday Canadians ahead of their well-connected insiders in Ottawa?
The honourable member for Scarborough, Agincourt.
Mr. Speaker, thank you to the people of Scarborough, Agincourt for placing their trust in me a fourth time. And gratitude to the many volunteers, supporters, campaign team, and my family who all worked so hard to allow me to continue to be a voice in Ottawa and also in the riding. I am here for you and because of you. I want to welcome all the new constituents who have joined Scarborough Agincourt because of the federal electoral boundary changes. I will focus on affordability, tariff concerns, and community safety, which is what I heard at the doors. We are truly a vibrant community, which is reflected in our many places of worship, small businesses, and excellent restaurants. I am so very proud to represent one of the most culturally diverse ridings in Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
The Prime Minister has repeatedly refused to be transparent about his financial holdings. Instead of coming clean about his financial interests, he dumped his assets into a blind trust, exposing a loophole in Canada's financial disclosure laws. Through this scheme, he is keeping his financial interests a secret from Canadians in order to escape accountability. This follows a pattern of shady actions. Prior to becoming Prime Minister, he held two multi-billion-dollar funds in offshore tax havens so his company, Brookfield, could avoid paying Canadian taxes. After tabling a spending bill asking for $500 billion, Canadians deserve to know if the Prime Minister is using that spending to boost his own investment portfolio. The Prime Minister must tell Canadians what assets he held when he entered public office and if those assets were held in offshore tax havens to avoid paying Canadian taxes.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with great humility that I accept this second mandate. The people of Rivière-du-Mille-Îles offered me that in the last election, and I truly appreciate it. I thank them from the bottom of my heart. Mr. Speaker, it's so... I'm sorry. To all my colleagues, any seat is a very important seat in this House of Commons. Believe me. And I'll say it to all new members. I wouldn't have been able to do this without the support of my partner, my kids, my family, and my friends. And especially without the support of my volunteers, Mr. Speaker. It's been such a long time, and they worked so hard. I'm sorry to the honourable member, but...
The honourable member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, after the lost Liberal decade, Canadians can no longer afford the housing hell created by these Liberals. According to one homeless report in the Niagara region, chronic homelessness is up 41%. The problem is only getting worse, and I can see the evidence in every community in my riding. According to one home building association, housing starts are decelerating rapidly, and a massive supply deficit is beginning to take place. Meanwhile, existing homeowners are also struggling. According to Equifax, homeowners experiencing a 6% increase in people unable to make a mortgage payment. And the 90-day plus mortgage delinquency is increased by 71% across Ontario.
Shame.
The Liberal plan will create a second housing bureaucracy and will do nothing to build more homes. Canadians want action. Conservatives will continue to support a real plan that will lower taxes and make life more affordable and bring home the dream of home ownership.
The honourable member for Cape Breton, Canso, Antigonish.
As I rise for the first time of Member of Parliament for Cape Breton, Canso, Antigonish, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the constituents of our riding for putting their trust in me as their representative. And to my campaign team, this journey would not have been possible without you. Mr. Speaker, June is National Indigenous History Month in Canada. It is a month to celebrate Indigenous culture. It is a time to reflect on our shared history, and it is a time to acknowledge the vast contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. National Indigenous History Month is also an opportunity to embrace Indigenous events in our communities, hear the beautiful languages, and support the work of Indigenous arts and crafts. I encourage all Canadians to get involved with National Indigenous History Month this June. Walaliek, Miigwech, Marci, Nokamik.
Yes, I'm going to put him back on. It's $300,000 for a home, and it is. It's National Indigenous Month. Sorry, here I'm going to put it. Sorry, 10 second back. There we go.
Up, promising dollar-for-dollar tariffs on the U.S. and promising this would generate $20 billion in revenue. It turns out it was actually elbows down, and the Prime Minister broke his promise and secretly canceled those tariffs. Now Trump is threatening 50% tariffs on Canadian steel, which will devastate Canada's steel industry and put thousands of steel workers out of their jobs. Can the Prime Minister look steel workers in the eye, tell them it wasn't actually elbows down, and how much money his tariffs will actually generate?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Clear in this House and the Prime Minister, we will fight, Mr. Speaker, against these unjustified and illegal tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium, Mr. Speaker. We're going to protect our workers and our industry, and the Minister of Industry already spoke about that over the weekend. And we're going to build a strong Canada, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build a Canada of tomorrow, a confident Canada, a prosperous Canada, a Canada that we can all befriend, Mr. Speaker.
One thing is they need to reopen the Hamilton steel mills. Get those
It
going,
doesn't
and they most
matter
likely are
which
coming
Liberal stands
because
up
you
to
were
answer
bought.
a question in this Parliament or last Parliament. They just actually never answer a question, Mr. Speaker. And it's not complicated. Elbows up was dollar for dollar tariffs. Has the Prime Minister already broken his promise to steelworkers, or was elbows up simply just fake news? And now we're facing the Trump tariffs, and steelworkers from coast to coast to coast are in serious jeopardy of losing their jobs. It's a simple question. How much money from these quote-unquote elbows-up tariffs have they generated?
Yes, it looks like, though, the steel will be coming out. Oh.
There's a lot of anxiety across the country, particularly when it comes to the steel and aluminum sectors. That's why over the weekend I've been in contact with industry leaders as well as union leaders. And we will continue to make sure that we protect their jobs. In order to be in solution mode, Mr. Speaker, we will make sure that Canadian steel and aluminum is used in our major infrastructure projects. That is why steel workers have said over the weekend, at a time where our steel and aluminum sectors are being hit by massive U.S. tariffs, this is the kind of leadership we've been demanding, and it has delivered.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
To be clear, the Prime Minister promised elbows up against U.S. tariffs. He promised dollar for dollar counter tariffs. He promised it would generate $20 billion in revenue, but he broke those promises. He secretly dropped counter tariffs to effectively zero. He stopped fighting back against President Trump pretty early on, and now Trump is threatening to double tariffs on Canadian steel to 50%, a direct attack against our workers, their livelihoods, and the Canadian economy. So if the Prime Minister really is elbows up, if he's really fighting back, can he tell our steelworkers how many dollars have been collected in counter tariff revenue from the U.S.? How many dollars? What's the number, Mr. Speaker?
Okay, I'm just going to say quickly here that Nippon just bought American Steel, which is the largest steel producer in Hamilton, and they look to be revamping up because they upgrade the coal that they can't actually do in the States. But in Canada, the real thing is that Canadians buy more American steel than we actually produce. So one of the major things that should be happening at this Premier's mission is at least, first of all, have Canadians buy Canadian steel. Now, all you have to do is incentivize it. I won't carry on too long.
Of industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague and congratulate her for the fact that she will be now my critic. So good news, looking forward to working with her. Indeed, the comments coming out of the White House are preoccupying. That being said, no executive order has been signed yet. So we take these comments very seriously, but we are working on all scenarios. That's why the Prime Minister is in Saskatoon meeting with the premiers of the provinces and territories, and that's also why we will make sure that we execute our plan, fight, protect, and build. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Is there a dollar amount on revenue from those counter tariffs? So we can assume it's effectively zero, and if the steel tariffs weren't bad enough, the Prime Minister is determined to keep the industrial carbon tax on our steel production, driving up the cost of steel production here at home, which perhaps is really no surprise given the Prime Minister said he claimed that Canadians don't even use that much steel, as if we don't use dishwashers and fridges and cars and pots and pans and baby strollers and housing infrastructure, all of which are made with steel, Mr. Speaker. So how can the Prime Minister claim to be elbows up for workers and fighting for affordability while keeping a punishing carbon tax on our Canadian steel producers?
Not to be obtuse, but those things aren't built in Canada anymore.
Finance and national revenue.
We'll take no lesson from the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. We have put in place as a country, as a nation.
What is pipeline, steel, and infrastructure.
Nation history, Mr. Speaker, to protect our workers in the steel industry, in the aluminum industry, in the forestry sector, in all the sectors of our economy, to defend our workers and our industry, Mr. Speaker. We should all in this room, in this House, stand proudly to defend Canadian workers, defend Canadian industry, and build Canada strong. That's Canadian, Mr. Speaker.
Aluminum and Quebec steel and Canadian steel in our infrastructure projects. We're going to create jobs, we're going to protect these workers, and we're going to be able to defend our country against this injustice from the White House. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Lafiore. Mr. Speaker, many Canadians voted for this Prime Minister thinking he would stand up to Mr. Trump. But it didn't take long for him to remove the counter tariffs on American products. Then he said he would be more fiscally responsible, but he presented spending forecasts that even outstrip those of his predecessor. He talks like a conservative, but governs like Justin Trudeau. He says one thing and then does another. When will this Prime Minister stop talking out of both sides of his mouth? The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Revenue. I'm surprised to hear my colleagues' comments. He should be proud that our PM standing up to the President. We did not capitulate. We're standing up to defend workers in this industry. We know how important the aluminum industry is in Quebec. We know the expertise of our workers, and the best aluminum in the world is produced in Canada and Quebec, and we're going to continue to defend this industry and our workers and build a strong country together. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals got elected by promising that Trump's tariff threats would be their top priority. And yet, it's not the new tariff threats on aluminum and steel that are being discussed today in Saskatoon between the premiers. No, the priority being discussed is forcing Quebec to accept a dirty oil pipeline from the West. Quebecers voted for a government that would protect them from Donald Trump. They did not vote for pipelines. Are the Liberals going to get their priorities straight? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, obviously Quebecers are very concerned by the tariff war from the U.S., and that's why they elected us with 44 Quebec MPs. This is the first time since '81, and we are going to be here to defend jobs and workers in the aluminum sector because we know that these tariff threats are against this sector. So we're going to work with the member from Lac-Saint-Jean and Bécancour, etc. But fundamentally, we're going to stand up tall to protect our jobs. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, even before meeting with Quebec and the provinces today, the Prime Minister met with business leaders yesterday. Not representatives from the steel and aluminum industries to discuss Trump's new tariff threats. No, he met with CEOs from the fossil fuel sector. Oil companies first, Quebec and the provinces a close second. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was not elected to serve oil companies. He was elected to protect Quebec's economy from Donald Trump's threats. How come these oil companies are coming first? The Honourable Minister of Industry. I think the Bloc needs to understand that the role of the PM is to talk to everyone, whether it's in the aluminum sector or in steel or clean energy or traditional energy. That's the job of the Prime Minister. That's something that the Bloc will never understand. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, what's fundamental is right now we want to build. We're going to invest in major infrastructure projects. And one of the infrastructure projects for the Quebec that is fundamental is the high-speed train from Windsor to Quebec City, something that the Bloc should support. The Honourable Member for Jean-Pierre. While the prairies are burning, the premiers are in Saskatoon talking about dirty oil pipelines and abandoning environmental assessments. That's Canadian identity today, Mr. Speaker. A Liberal Prime Minister who talks to oil companies before talking to his provincial counterparts. Provinces that isolate Quebec to force it to accept a pipeline. All these people keep telling us that it's a matter of Canadian unity and of national interest. Does the Minister of Canadian Identity also believe that Canadian unity and the national interest mean building pipelines while the prairies burn? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, you know what's the national interest? That's job creation and protecting jobs. And that's what people in all ridings where the Bloc are active in. Who's able to deliver? There's just one party, and that's the Liberal Party. And there's only one government that can protect and create jobs, and that's us. We're going to do this by working with the Quebec government, of course, and traveling with the provinces. But it's fundamental in this tariff war to fight against this White House rhetoric and to create jobs at the same time.
Honourable Member for Flamborough, Glen, Brook, Brant North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister promised elbows up, promising dollar-for-dollar tariffs on the U.S. that would collect $20 billion. The Prime Minister broke that promise, giving Canadians elbows down when he dropped the tariffs on the U.S. to effectively zero. Now Trump is threatening to double tariffs on Canadian steel to 50%, attacking Canadian workers, their jobs, their livelihoods, and our industry. Can the Prime Minister tell our steel workers how much has been collected from tariffs on the U.S.?
The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Revenue.
The member on the other side is misinformed, but let's talk about the great things we've been doing for Canadians lately. Mr. Speaker, last week we introduced as the first thing in this House a tax reduction for the middle class, Mr. Speaker. 22 million Canadians will benefit from that measure, Mr. Speaker. Not only we did that, but we also make sure that we remove the GST for first-time home buyers on their first house up to $1 million, Mr. Speaker. Those are measures that makes a difference in the life of Canadians. Those are measures that makes a difference in every region of Canada. Those are measures that build a Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Flamborough, Glanbrook, Brant North.
So did you hear that, steel workers in Hamilton? Not a number in that arrogant answer. Well, I don't think that's surprising, given that this is a government whose Prime Minister believes that Canadians don't actually use steel in their daily lives. But for workers and businesses in my community of Hamilton who are looking for the support that might have come from the revenue of those counter tariffs, they're being left empty-handed, and they are worried about their future. So let me ask again, if the Liberals are truly fighting back, can they tell us how much has been collected from tariffs? How much? Just a number.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
There's a lot of anxiety across the country in the steel and aluminum sector, particularly in Hamilton. That's why I was in contact with the CEO of ArcelorMittal, Dofasco, over the weekend, talking to the head also of the Canadian steelworkers, making sure that our MPs also from Hamilton are really on board and as they're fighting for the jobs in their own communities. Mr. Speaker, this rhetoric coming out of the White House is extremely preoccupying, but meanwhile, no executive order has been signed. That's why we'll continue to fight with counter-tariffs to protect our workers and to make sure that we build national projects.
The honourable member.
I think she's getting a little flustered on that one.
Mr. Speaker,
it's about the steel every time it seems.
7%. Youth unemployment is 14%. Canadians can't find work, and the burden of government red tape is making things even worse. Small businesses spend 32 working days every year wrapped up in excessive regulations. It's no wonder they can't afford to hire or innovate. Will the Liberals finally cut the red tape, strangling our economy, so businesses can hire and Canadians can find a job?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, this government is focused on making sure that employers have the quality, skilled talent that they need to grow their small, medium-sized businesses and ensure that corporations across this country have the kind of innovation and talent that they are all asking for. So I would recommend that member listen to the employers and check in with the employers in his riding who are talking about the need for more talent. We'll be there, Mr. Speaker, for every Canadian that wants to ensure they can too get a great job.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
It's been 10 years, and I have been listening to Canadians, and the minister should listen to Canadians who can't find a job. There are fewer new entrepreneurs than ever. Productivity and growth are down. Forget the scissors, forget the pruners, hum them. We need a chainsaw to cut through all this red tape. It's time to clear a path for Canadians to be successful and to hire. So why do the Liberals keep choking Canadian workers and businesses with their red tape?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister often says, no one can do to Canada the kind of bad things to be against the good things that Canadians can do for themselves. The Prime Minister and ministers are in Saskatoon today, doing the hard work of removing red tape in the form of internal trade barriers so we can have one Canadian economy and not 13 Canadian economies. This will lower prices up to 15%, productivity up to 7%, and add $200 billion to the economy, Mr. Speaker. That's eliminating red tape. That's standing up for Canada.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised elbows up, promising dollar-for-dollar tariffs on the U.S. and claimed he would collect $20 billion. The Prime Minister broke down that promise, giving Canadian steel and auto workers an elbow in the ribs when he dropped tariffs on the U.S. to effectively zero. Now President Trump is threatening to double tariffs on Canadian steel to 50%, attacking Canadian workers, their jobs, their livelihoods, and our industry. Can the Prime Minister tell us how much he has actually collected from tariffs, and so far, how is he going to help secure jobs in Windsor?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Only we will make sure that Canadian steel and aluminum is in our major projects, but we will make sure that all the investments we're putting in defense are to create jobs, which will have an impact on the steel and aluminum sector. And that is why the United Steelworkers mentioned, at a time where our steel and aluminum sectors are being hit by massive U.S. tariffs, this is the kind of leadership we've been demanding, and that has been delivered by this government. Thank you.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Prime Minister promised elbows up. He promised dollar-for-dollar tariffs on the U.S., and he promised he would collect $20 billion in revenue. But in reality, he quietly dropped the tariffs on the U.S., practically to zero. And now Donald Trump is threatening to double tariffs on Canadian steel to 50%. This will destroy our industry and punish our workers. Since the Canadian tax revenue was supposed to support Canadian steel workers, can the Prime Minister tell us how much has he collected so far for jobs in Oxford? And just give us just the number.
The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Revenue.
Speaker, I would like to see in this House the same movement we've seen with steel workers in the industry, Mr. Speaker. This is a nation where we need to come together as a nation. This is a moment to fight together these unjustified tariffs, Mr. Speaker. This is a time to make sure we protect our industry and our worker. This is a time where we need to build this country like the Prime Minister is doing with the premiers today in Saskatoon, Mr. Speaker. I just wish in this House that everyone would stand up to defend our industry, defend our worker, and build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Surprise, surprise, they can't give us a number. And now Trump's 50% tariffs on steel will shut down our plants across our country. Thousands of jobs are on the line. Layoffs have already started in Oxford. There is anxiety on our floor shops and our kitchen tables. And it's not just Trump's tariffs that are killing jobs, it's also the Liberal industrial carbon tax. That's right. If the Prime Minister can't get a deal with Trump on tariffs, will at least give our workers a fighting chance. Remove the Liberal industrial carbon tax today.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, we know that we need to make sure that we fight back with strong counter tariffs against this rhetoric coming out of the White House. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? Our strategy has been working. There's only 2 countries on earth that have put counter tariffs against tariffs by the Americans, China and us. And by the way, today the U.S. Chamber of Commerce said that this threat of 50% tariffs in the steel and aluminum sector was completely unacceptable. We will work with our allies within the American society, and we will make sure that we fight back.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi Témiscamingue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The elections have once again proven that Indigenous people are treated as second-class citizens federally. In Abitibi Bay James Nunavut, the Inuit were unable to vote. It has been reported that in at least 6 communities...
To be honest, the chances of it actually, these 50% tariffs happening on Canada, because American Steel is with us, they own a factory here, they're going to basically push back. It's just rhetoric to get in the news. That's my opinion, but...
That the Inuit were denied their right to vote in this way. The Honourable Government House Leader. Elections Canada is an independent agency and, in fact, one of the best in the world. And it protects our democracy very securely and efficiently. If there are issues in terms of the election and how they were conducted, well, questions should be brought to them. The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, Elections Canada has taken away the Inuits' right to vote, the most fundamental right in a democracy. This is completely unacceptable, yet it is accepted. No one's talking about it. We cannot condone this harm caused to the Inuit by Elections Canada, whether it's through incompetence or negligence. What will the minister do to ensure that Elections Canada reveals everything that happened, and what measures will they take to ensure that this never happens again in their riding or elsewhere? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, like the member knows full well, if there are issues, these concerns can be brought, as all Canadians can do. They can bring their concerns to Elections Canada, and I'm sure that this independent agency, which is the pride of our country, will try to answer these questions. And the right to vote is obviously the most fundamental right for Canadians, and we fight for it every day here in the House. But Elections Canada is in charge of conducting our elections. They do a good job, and they will be answering these questions.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister introduced his first spending bill. The Liberals increased spending by 8% after promising to keep it below 2%. Spending on consultants alone increased by more than 36% to an unprecedented $26.1 billion. Now, every Canadian household has to pay $1,400 per year in taxes just to pay for well-connected Liberal insiders. Liberal spending drives inflation. When will they spend responsibly to ensure Canadians and residents of Kitchener Centre never have to decide between filling the refrigerator or putting...
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, this new government is making sure that spending is being carefully managed and focused on our most pressing priorities. In 2023 and 24, departments started reducing spending on professional and travel services by $500 million. We will continue to review our spending to make sure that we're being efficient, effective, and focused. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, on the very day the Prime Minister pledged a 2% spending cap, his government unveiled a bill that surges spending by 8%, shattering that promise. Consultant fees skyrocketed by 36% after they promised to cut them, costing Canadian families $1,400 in additional taxes. While households are forced to manage their budgets, this Liberal government acts unchecked, putting jobs at risk. After 10 years of Liberal failures, why does the Prime Minister think it's okay to spend even more money on government insiders and lobbyists?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I just talked about our spending reduction, but also let's talk about investment in the mains. It includes important funding to support dental care, the Canadian Forces, and border services. This new government is investing in Canadians to build Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, a new Prime Minister, but nothing has changed. He's proposing the same spending that will cause the same painful consequences for Canadians. People in the auto industry in Windsor, Ontario, are worried about losing their homes if they are laid off. The reasons of Liberal spending are missed mortgage payments and skyrocketing losses, job losses. How is a Liberal government asking to spend $500 billion causing further inflation without a budget plan?
L'Honorable Ministre des Finances et du Revenu National.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to welcome my colleague to this House, but she should know that we made generational investment in Windsor, Mr. Speaker, in the auto sector. She should be celebrating the Liberal government. She should be standing up to say thanks to this government, the worker, the industry, people in Windsor can see a future, Mr. Speaker. The people of Windsor know that we have their back. They know that we're going to fight for them. We're going to fight for the industry. We're going to fight for the auto workers. We're going to build Canada strong together, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Richmond.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the Prime Minister brought in his first spending bill. After 10 years of this Liberal government, I thought it was impossible to somehow be worse than Justin Trudeau, but this is worse. The Prime Minister inherited an obese Liberal government and promised to spend less. And yet here there is 8% more in spending than what Justin Trudeau did during his last year. Without a budget, how can the Prime Minister explain this to his colleague, who's the former Minister of Finance of Quebec? How can he explain that we will be managing Canada without a budget? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation, Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is true that we received a strong mandate to make government more efficient, for example, by using new technology and by reducing dependence on external consultants. That's what we're doing and will continue to do, Mr. Speaker. We will also ensure that the public service has the expertise and tools it needs in order to accomplish its mission. But I will also mention that, for example, in the estimates, there is funding for dental care, among other things, which millions of people in the ridings of my colleagues on the other side of the House depend on. My colleagues said they would support this during the campaign, but now they say they won't, and it's really regrettable and shameful that they'll be taking away dental care for millions of people, their own constituents. The Honourable Member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, let me just say that we are not going to take budget lessons from the other side of the House. Spending will increase about 3 times faster than inflation and demographic growth. That's a $500 million level without a single budget. $500 billion rather, without a budget. When my colleagues go meet families, single moms, entrepreneurs, all sorts of people who manage to make budgets and who are struggling to make ends meet, how can people like that accept this kind of spending without a budget? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'd like to thank my constituents, but it is amazing to see the Conservative selective amnesia, because just a month ago they were unable to put out a costed budget, even though they had been a costed platform, rather, even though they'd been asking for an election for years. They had plenty of time to prepare, but then they produced a platform that wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. What would my colleague tell his constituents when he's going to vote against the dental care plan, which recently was opened up to people between 18 and 64, which will open up dental care to millions of Canadians? He should be ashamed to vote against that.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Secretary of State for Rural Development. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I had the opportunity.
All right, couldn't hear the member. Would the member like to start over? I still can't hear the member, so...
State for Rural Development. And it is indeed a very serious issue. I'd ask my Conservative friends to calm down a little bit. You know, we have very serious wildfires that are taking place in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Victims of this fire, Mr. Speaker, are having to be evacuated from rural communities in our prairies by the thousands. This is a very serious issue. I want to compliment the efforts of the firefighters and the first responders for doing a fantastic job. Can the Secretary of State explain what it is the federal government is doing?
The Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is a very serious matter. And I was home in Saskatchewan this weekend, and I met with the Premier. We had a very good press conference. I met with Métis Indigenous leaders. I met with local leaders. And I met with a lot of different groups, including the evacuees that are struggling with this during this very challenging time. I want to say that many of my constituents were forced to flee their homes, and certainly our prayers are sent out to them. But I'll say quickly that the federal government is ready to assist. Mr. Speaker, we'll be there for Saskatchewan, we'll be there for Manitoba, we'll be there for all of Canada.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Knocking on doors that met Foothills families who are in tears because they're losing their jobs and they're losing their businesses because of the Liberal attacks on Canadian energy. These are small business owners who employ hundreds of thousands of Canadians right across this country. They need real action, no more political games. Like the provinces, they want to build because pipelines mean paychecks, mean a growing economy, and energy independence. So why are the Liberals the only holdout? The Prime Minister is meeting with premiers in Saskatchewan today. Will he approve a pipeline at that meeting?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is indeed meeting the 13 provincial and territorial leaders today with one clear goal: to support nation-building projects that bring Canadians together by ensuring that they are expedited but also efficiently reviewed. As the Prime Minister said, any project will need to get consensus from provinces, Indigenous communities and private partners and will be subject to assessment. But Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has also been clear: it's time to build in Canada, and build is what we're going to do.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Well, the Prime Minister may be meeting, but he sure isn't listening. While he dawdles, the opportunities to unleash Canadian energy pass us by because of the Liberals' anti-energy legislation that blocks infrastructure and blocks investment. Like the provinces, they want to build. Canadian workers want to work. Canadians want energy independence, but C-69 blocks pipelines, 48 blocks shipping. The job-killing carbon tax, or the industrial carbon tax, is punishing our energy sector. Will the Prime Minister end his attacks on Canadian oil and gas and repeal his anti-energy legislation today?
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we were served another reminder just this weekend of the threats that we face in terms of trade around the world. This government will fight, protect, and build. This Prime Minister is in Saskatoon today with 13 provincial and territorial leaders to build one Canadian economy, not 13. And yes, Mr. Speaker, we intend to build this country. We intend to build major national projects in this country, and we intend to put Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, and Canadian workers to work building the country that we live in.
The honourable member for Edmonton Northwest.
The Prime Minister is meeting with provinces in Saskatoon today. The consensus is clear as the call to build pipelines and energy infrastructure becomes louder and louder. The only one standing in the way is the federal Liberal government. Building energy projects means a stronger Canadian economy, less dependence on the United States, and powerful paychecks for Canadian workers. Will the Liberal government approve a pipeline at the meeting in Saskatchewan today?
Yeah. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been very, very clear, and I don't know if my friends across the aisle have heard it quite clearly. Certainly Canadians heard it in the last federal election when they returned a Liberal government with a very, very clear mandate. That is to fight for this country, fight against trade threats from other places, protect the citizens of this country, protect, yes, our natural resources, protect our workers, but also, Mr. Speaker, to build this country, to build major national projects. That's what's on the agenda today in Saskatoon, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Northwest.
Mr. Speaker, we hear a lot of rhetoric from this Liberal government about making Canada an energy superpower, but their commitment to job-killing anti-Canadian energy legislation holds back our potential as a nation. The actions needed today are to repeal the no new pipeline C-69, repeal the shipping ban C-48, repeal the job-killing oil and gas production cap, repeal the industrial carbon tax. So will this Liberal government take action today, the action needed to repeal their anti-energy agenda?
Excellent. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, I don't know how we can be much more clear. The Prime Minister convened the 13 provincial and territorial leaders today with the express purpose of discussing with them the kind of major national nation-building projects that this country can consider undertaking. That is what is going on in Saskatoon. I don't know if the members across actually follow the news or followed the election campaign, but what happened is we said it's time to build, Mr. Speaker, and build is what we're going to do.
The Honourable Member from Montmorency Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is meeting the provinces in Saskatchewan today, and we're hearing a clear consensus. We're hearing calls to build pipelines and energy infrastructure. There are more and more of these calls. Quebecers want pipelines, and the only obstacle in their way is the federal government. If we build energy projects, we'll be strengthening our Canadian economy, reducing our dependence on the U.S., and we'll be making sure that our Canadian workers can bring home good paychecks. So, will the Liberal government approve the building of a new Canadian pipeline today at the meeting? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is indeed in Saskatoon today. And what is being discussed there? Yes, energy. Yes, big national energy projects. Yes, the complete elimination of interprovincial Canadian economy, rather, in order to increase our GDP by 4%, according to some economists. And so we will be making sure to create good jobs, investment in Quebec, elsewhere in Canada, and Mr. Speaker, we will be building Canada. That's what we're here to do. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, throughout the campaign, the Prime Minister said that he had a plan to build new energy projects. So what better time than today to present his plan to all of the Canadian premiers together and explain how he will be building that energy infrastructure. People in my riding in Quebec and in Canada are all sick and tired of paying more for less. Will the Liberal government spare a thought for our rural regions and abolish Bill C-69, the anti-energy bill? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, I know the member is new to this House. I don't know if he's following the news. But the Prime Minister is in Saskatoon, and he's working closely with all of the provinces and territories. And what are they talking about? Energy projects, as well as others, that will make Canada an economic superpower on the global stage. Our mandate is to build Canada strong. That is the mandate we got through the election campaign. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, the very first call I received from a Calgarian was from a small business owner being extorted by criminals for $300,000. Extortions in Calgary, Brampton, and Edmonton are on the rise and only getting worse. Under these Liberal extortion cases are up 357%. Liberals voted down Conservative Bill C-381 to tackle extortion. The bill sets mandatory minimum penalties for extortion after Liberals took away penalties in their soft-on-crime Bill C-5. Will the Prime Minister work with Conservatives to adopt Bill C-381 to crack down on violent extortions?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is a serious crime and we're taking it seriously. Extortion carries a penalty of life in prison in Canada, Mr. Speaker. That is extremely serious. If committed with a firearm, there's minimum sentences as well. We'll act decisively to strengthen the criminal code and move aggressively to protect victims by making bail laws stricter as well, Mr. Speaker, for violent organized criminals. And we'll work closely with the RCMP and local police across the country. We created a task force. There's more work to do. We're investigating these serious issues, and I hope the criminal...
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray.
Failed Liberal drug policies flooding the streets with dangerous drugs, causing crime and chaos in our street, are making the addiction crisis worse.
Every day, 22 Canadians die from drug overdose. During the last Liberal decade, we've seen more people die from addiction than we lost in the Second World War. We've heard heartbreaking stories of young people becoming addicted to drugs labeled as safe, only to later lose their life to addiction. Conservatives want to see investment in treatment and recovery. Simple question. Will the Prime Minister reverse course and put an end to the deadly, unsafe supply program today?
L'honorable ministre de la Santé.
Merci, Monsieur. The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. Well, Mr. Speaker, as you know, this situation affects Canadians, and my department and I are closely considering the question, and we will be looking for solutions. Thank you.
Member for Fort McMurray.
Fentanyl is 100 times more potent than heroin, and as little as 2 milligrams can kill a person. Through the last Liberal decade, Canada has become a fentanyl manufacturing hub, with Breaking Bad style super labs popping up across the country. Mass fentanyl production is mass murder. But Liberal laws let these monsters who traffic the deadly drugs walk free. Conservatives are proposing mandatory life sentences to those involved with trafficking, production, distribution of more than 40 milligrams of fentanyl. Will the Prime Minister take real action and give life sentences to the drug kingpins committing mass murder?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, fentanyl has impacted every single community in North America, and I know that we see the impacts of fentanyl and its use have killed so many young people. That's why we listed 7 cartels as terrorist entities under the criminal code. I'm working closely with Kevin Brasseau, Canada's fentanyl czar, at home and abroad, to put a laser-sharp focus on dismantling fentanyl rings. We will put those who profit from this drug behind bars, Mr. Speaker. We will always be there to protect Canadians.
Honorable Deputy.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, Francophone immigration plays an essential role in strengthening minority Francophone communities throughout the country. It's also important for supporting economic growth, and that's why I'm proud to say that we have set ambitious goals for the years to come: 8.5% for 2025, 9.5% for 2026, and 10% for 2027. Can the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship tell us about what the government is doing to support Francophone immigration? Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for his question and his hard work on Francophone immigration. Last year, we exceeded our Francophone immigration target for Francophone immigration outside Quebec, and we are determined to support the strength and long-term growth of Francophone communities outside Quebec. That's why our new government will establish a 12% objective for Francophone immigration outside Quebec by 2029. Thank you.
Excellent. Member for Brantford, Brent South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just handed the keys to his government to Marc-Andre Blanchard, Trudeau's UN ambassador and now his chief of staff. This is the guy who wants to invest in killing oil and gas and do it.
Would the member like to rewind a bit and to... Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just handed the keys to the government to Mr. Blanchard, Trudeau's UN ambassador, now his chief of staff. This is the guy who wants to invest in killing in oil and gas. Where are the claps? And do it through Brookfield. Right. Who else worked at Brookfield? Anyone? Well, it was the Prime Minister himself. Why is the Prime Minister surrounding his government with Trudeau loyalists who want to shut down Canada's energy sector? And is that why he still refuses to publicly disclose his Brookfield assets?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, we welcome the appointment of a new Chief of Staff in the Office of the Prime Minister. Mr. Minister Blanchard is a great public servant, a great Canadian who has had a stellar career in the private and the public sectors, and we welcome back to public service. And as for the Prime Minister, he follows, as all members must, the most stringent code of ethics for elected members in the world, and the Prime Minister will obviously continue to comply with all of the rules.
Hear, hear. Honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Not just the energy sector under threat, it's public safety too. While the Prime Minister's new Chief of Staff is hell-bent on shutting down oil and gas, he's also brought back David Lametti as Principal Secretary. The same failed Justice Minister.
Member can start from the top on that.
Lacking incompetence, the same minister that they fired. This is the same minister who gutted bail and pushed soft on crime bills like Bill C-5 and C-75 that they all voted for. And laws that helped unleash chaos on our streets, drive violent crime up 50%. Is the Prime Minister really doubling down on the same Trudeau insiders who always put criminals over that of community safety?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
There seems to be a very odd fixation on the personnel decisions in the Prime Minister's office. The obvious accountability is done in this House, as the member well knows, and he can ask any question that he wants to any minister of this House without impugning people that aren't here. But Mr. Lametti, for his part, a great former parliamentarian, a great Italian Canadian, a distinguished person who is entering public service. These people should be celebrating that great Canadians are prepared to step up and enroll for public service and serve Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Signal Hill.
The Prime Minister yesterday announced his new Chief of Staff and Principal Secretary. These are two of the top officials, some of the most powerful people in Ottawa, directing policy. The new Chief of Staff wants to kill oil and gas and says it needs to be done through Brookfield. Broken bail system and kept C5 and C75 laws on the books. Why is the Prime Minister surrounding himself with Trudeau officials that want to keep oil and gas in the ground and keep soft on crime laws on the books?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I do not understand this odd fixation with personnel decisions. What we have in this House is a number of public servants who are quite willing to answer questions about the public policies of this government and to be held accountable for those. We obviously celebrate when distinguished, capable, and talented people join the government of Canada. That is certainly the case, as we heard over the weekend. But I suggest that members move on to asking about the issues that Canadians are concerned about.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Confederation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the face of repeated threats by the United States to our economic sovereignty, Canadians chose to give our government a strong mandate to build a strong Canada. Now, as we've heard, today the Prime Minister and Premiers are meeting in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, one of the economic engines of this great country, and strengthening Canada's economy is on the agenda. Now, members opposite have imagined a lot of outcomes from a meeting they weren't invited to. But in an effort to get back to facts, can the Minister of Finance and National Revenue inform the House on details of this work and its importance to Canada?
L'Honorable Ministre des Finances et du Revenu National.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Calgary Confederation and welcome him to this House and thank him for the excellent work he's doing for people of Calgary, but also of Alberta, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, the First Minister's meeting is happening today in Saskatoon is an important opportunity for the Prime Minister to bring the Premiers together around the table with one common agenda, Mr. Speaker, focusing on building a stronger and united Canada. It's time to build one Canadian economy, accelerate the approval of nation-building projects. Mr. Speaker, together we're going to build Canada strong. That's what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South, Innisfil.
For 7 months, parliamentary committees
committees have sat idle while, according to the Prime Minister, the country is facing an existential threat, and it appears that he's in no rush to have them constituted. Committees are an important function of our democracy. Committees are where bills are scrutinized, where witnesses tell MPs about the impacts these bills and threats are having on their businesses, their lives, and their communities, where the government is held to account. We don't have a budget, and without committees, there will be no oversight or accountability. Maybe that's what the Prime Minister wants. Will the Prime Minister commit to ensuring committees are in place before his summer vacation starts?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I've taken careful note, and of course, standing committees will be constituted in this House, as they always are. But
That's a good question.
Last fall, when this party spent 3 straight months refusing to hear one single government proposal with respect to improving the lives of Canadians.
And actually, it would be pretty good to have the committee set up before, organized before they break away. You know, I think they could do it easily too.
Honorable.
The honourable member for Rosemont La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, for 20 months, the Netanyahu regime has been mercilessly bombing Palestinians in Gaza. 54,000 are dead, including 15,000 children. Hundreds of thousands of people have been wounded. Hunger used as a weapon of war. Hospitals have been bombed. Families have burned alive. Once humanity said never again, but today it's happening again under our very eyes. The Prime Minister stood with France and the UK to say that if this didn't stop, he would not remain idle. On behalf of all of the children that have been murdered and mutilated in Gaza, will the Liberals prepare sanctions against Netanyahu and his cabinet?
The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is deeply concerned by the renewed escalation in Gaza. These attacks put the lives of countless civilians in danger. We urge both parties to remain committed to ceasefires, save the preventable loss of countless lives. Essentials, foods, electricity, fuel, and medical supplies must never be used as political tools. We call for the immediate and unimpeded flow into the Strip and for the release of all remaining hostages. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That does it for today's question period.
Any point of orders? Poos?
Give
No
members
poo?
a couple of seconds to
Organize the poo.
to go where they may be going.
Oh, okay, that's it. All right, that was no point of orders. Surprised, to be honest. But I'm going to go check out something here. We won't go to that. That I thought was pretty good of a thing. Here is my here. I'm going to just show you this. This is the Church of the Week. We're going to go do a little walk around here, okay, folks? This is the Cathedral Basilica of the Sacred Heart. Now this is see this. This is what I would call. I'm not sure if it's the name. The proper name is the Chapel of Saint Stanislaus. The Slav Magyar, which are Hungarian Slav chapel, is dedicated to Saint Stanislaus. Stanislaus was a bishop from Krakow, Poland. Krakow, Poland is beautiful. The Polish just had an election today. The nationalist won. The pro-Trump, and this is why my favorite church here is. Look, here we go. We're going for a little walk, folks. Look now. Ooh, there's another one. Little chapel. Go into the chapel. Here's a big chapel. Here, let's see. The Lady of Grace. She's got some. She has got. Look at she's got a lot of grace. All right, lots of grace. Look at this. This is just such a great place. And then here we go. We're going to go for the walk here. La, 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 la. Lucy. Oh, we went right into Lucy. Didn't mean to do that. Ooh, look at that. Is that gold in them there hills? Trump would be happy. Philippe. Lucy. Okay. Let's please. There we go. Let's get right here. Yeah, that's the Lucy Lou. And then here, that's, then here's the large. Another large one, St. Patrick's Chapel, dedicated to the Irish and English immigrant populations of Newark, of course. Now look at this. Look at this. This is another of my favorite. This is the other wing. The sacristy. These are rooms which the priests vest and prepare for liturgy. All right. Now they're like, whoa, wait a second here. Wait a second here. Walking space to the sanctuary, to the high altar. Ooh. This is the chapel of the Lady of Lourdes. You have a little peek in there. Beautiful. See how it's different. It's facing a different way. The Lourdes. Lord, by the way, has a new album out. It's pretty damn good. I like it. So does what's her name? Cyrus. The Cyruses have been very busy of late. So we're going for a little walk. So see, have you noticed here? I know I'm going on a little bit long, but I'm walking around here. I want to show you this. Because here we are. Look at look at this. This is the full package. The Starry Vault of Balancino. The stars of the blue sky of the vault. See, it's a vault in there. And this is the altar. The Latin inscription on the altar. Whoever feeds on this bread will live forever. Beautiful. Look at this. This is the Basilica. This is in the United States of America. Like, come on. Really? Look at this. Looks like something you'd see in, like, France or something. But this is the main thing. And as you can tell, there's, like, a horseshoe around this basilica. The IHS emblem. Look at this. We can go right up there. Right up to this. The IHS. Shh. Anyway, I won't, well, whatever. I love it. It's a beautiful church. It's my favorite. It's the church of probably of time. I can't wait to go. Delaware. Delaware of all places. You know, it does not look like America. So, okay, here's, we got, who's those voices in that? I wonder if a beautiful voice I find will be there. Not the original, of course. I am sitting in the corner in the cafe in the corner. So the premiers, they commented ahead of it. Oh shoot. Scott Moe and so Saskatchewan and Ontario have made an announcement together. The opening remarks for this meeting. You're going to listen to this with the Prime Minister of Canada, Moe. All of the guys. Premier Moe, Premier Ford.
First of all, welcoming everyone to the room. I want to thank Prime Minister Carney for providing us this offer, not only of a First Minister's meeting, but for
Premier Legault. Oh, he's got a little rolling eyes. We don't want him rolling eyes. Premier Legault. PJ from the Arctic is up there. My favorite. My favorite one right now, Wob Canoe. He's there. I'm having. Well, I have, I guess, trouble with the internet when I'm on. I guess so. Wob Canoe. I know Premier Ebb from British Columbia. We have. I know I'm missing someone. Oh, Danielle Smith. I don't know if she's there. I didn't see her, but I imagine Danielle Smith. Mo, JP, Doug Board, Legault, Holt from New Brunswick. I don't know see how that's going. Holland. I'm sorry, Dallas. Premier Dallas from Nova Scotia. The premier from Newfoundland Labrador. I don't think he's going to be there. He stepped down, and then I don't know if they may have a new premier there. I haven't kept up, to be honest, with that. And I'm not missing any. All right.
Alongside our Prime Minister, I want to also thank, I see Minister Freeland, Minister LeBlanc. I have not seen his Hey, Dom. Good to see you, my friend. And Minister Hodgson as well is here. Thank you very much for joining us. And I want to welcome all of my colleagues, premiers around the table. Some new faces around the table for us, but many of them, and in particular Doug and Francois, we've been sitting around the table for a long time. Some of our constituents might say far too long, but I would disagree with them. But thank you and welcome everyone here today. Just a quick note, and I think Wab and increasingly Danielle would share our concerns, and everyone would provide our best wishes and our thoughts with the firefighters and all of those that are defending their communities throughout the north. A couple of years ago, it was the tables were turned, where the challenge was very much in the territories. Yukon, New Brunswick, as well as Alaska, Oregon, and Arizona are providing resources into Western Canada as well, which I think speaks to a broader relationship that we're all collectively working on as well. Many others around this table are consistently reaching out to the three of us to offer resources, and for that we're very grateful. And I think when we look back over the last 5 years or so, we have been able to provide those resources to other jurisdictions, and it's that ability for us to really be more than a sum of our parts in Canada that is the approach that I would hope each of us takes to these meetings here today. The Prime Minister has set out goals for us as Canadians to collaboratively work on, for us to have the strongest economy in the G7 nation, for us as Canadians and as a country of Canada to become a global energy superpower. And I think when we look at the collaboration in which we come together to protect our communities, our homes, and our families across this nation, year in, year out, if we approach this conversation today and for the weeks and months and years ahead, in building towards those goals of strengthening that economy so it is leading the G7, strengthening our opportunity and providing an opportunity for us as Canadians to become a global energy superpower. Canadians will be well served by the work that we collectively are doing here today. And so to my premiers, 13, myself and 12 others, that collectively do represent all Canadians. And to our Prime Minister and our federal ministers that are here, I welcome you. I thank you for bringing this meeting together here today, Prime Minister. I think it is truly an opportunity that lies at the feet of not only the federal government, but each of us as subnational leaders to unite this nation and to really seize the opportunity that I see before us as Canadians. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. I said this last night. I'm going to make a habit of it. I'd like to just follow you all the time in making remarks, because I just want to reinforce everything the Premier just said. It's absolutely correct. And
I might have to form a new party.
Yes, that's true. There maybe not every single time, but on issues of nation building and cooperation, without question. Thank you for the great Saskatchewan hospitality on very short notice. It was really only a month ago that we spoke and struck the date for this meeting, and under challenging circumstances. And just reiterate the Northern Prairie provinces, the challenges of the wildfires that are raging, and the cooperation that we're seeing across the provinces, across Canada. Volunteers, the Canadian Armed Forces, help from some of the Americans as well. 30,000 evacuees, and bravery and charity, the best of Canada being shown. 40 years ago was the last time there was a First Minister meeting in the province of Saskatchewan. It was in Regina then. Prime Minister Mulroney had convened it. One of the conclusions of the meeting was that they should meet again. Always a little suspect, and here we are. The conclusion was the First Minister should meet on an annual basis. Certainly more than exceeded that. And I think it's a testament that both for First Ministers, but very importantly, supplemented, if not superseded, by the Council of the Federation and your leadership, Doug, bringing together the provinces to help build this country. Back in 1985, it was the run-up to what would then be the free trade agreement with the United States, and a long process of integration that brought great prosperity to both our nations, culminating in the best trade deal ever, as someone once called it. Some call it USMCA, we call it CUSMA. But that situation, as we all know, has changed. We're in the process of redefining our relationship with the United States. That's ongoing. Mr. LeBlanc and others leading those discussions, but working very much in partnership around this table in terms of our priorities and how we're defining it. But also taking matters very much into our own hands, parce que nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Nous pouvons contrôler notre destin économique, notre destin de sécurité. And that's what this meeting is about. Building a stronger Canadian economy, building one Canadian economy, and I really want to salute the leadership around this table. I can't keep up with the flurry of announcements of free trade agreements between provinces and across the country. The federal government will do its part, tabling legislation very shortly to eliminate federal barriers to interprovincial movement of goods and people, and also to put in place an ability to advance projects of national interest. And again, we have seen the leadership around this table of developing truly nation-building projects. And this is just the start. This is just the start. And it's what Canadians expect and what they deserve. En mars, à notre première rencontre, nous avons décidé d'unir nos forces pour bâtir une Canada.
He's right. The Saskatchewan and I think Alberta did it. Ontario and Saskatchewan and Alberta have free trade agreements and deals, get allowing trades, and a bunch of other. There's a bunch of, like you said, a bunch of others. Now Ontario also with New Brunswick from previous. British Columbia hasn't worked it out yet.
Be critical, really, to turn the momentum that's been created by you around this table, that the federal government is looking to add to translate that momentum, those ideas into action. But I'm very confident with the experience, the expertise, the goodwill, and the support of Canadians that we will do just that, including through the leadership of the Council of the Federation. And with that, I will turn to Premier Ford.
That's great. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Prime Minister, for bringing us all together.
He's been busy. He's been doing a good job for us.
Thank you, Scott, for hosting us. What a great host. We've had great discussions since last night, and we'll have further discussions how we can be more resilient country and coming together. I always say, united we stand, divided we fall. We're going to have great discussions. I know Canadians want hope, they want prosperity, they want opportunity. And I feel if everyone cooperates and collaborates, we're going to make that happen. We'll make it happen, as you were saying, Scott. We will be a superpower when it comes to energy of all forms. And that's our goal today, to make sure that we have large national infrastructure projects that will benefit every Canadian from coast to coast to coast. And again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. I look forward to having you in July over to Ontario and get a couple cigars ready, Dom, because you took off from us last night. But we look forward to hosting you there. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Okay, that's that. There you have it, folks. A outstanding beginning of it. He said there's a whole start that's already basically started of the whole beginning of the beautiful, wonderful premier meeting. There should be actually a bunch of free trade deals. I actually really hope to see, honestly, I hope to see some major deals. I'm basically thinking, okay, I know you can start with the East Coast, the West Coast, or the Arctic, but to me right now, I would start where the sun don't shine on the dog, and that I don't mean that in any other way, just by I'm trying to be, Manitoba, because of its location is in the center, and no one really talks about Manitoba. It's like the province that never was, a lot of times. But I tell you, my experience, I love the province. There's a lot of great things about it. Still reasonable price housing. They're having those fires they're getting at. And then Wab Kinew is there, the first premier of Native American heritage. They slandered him on the beginning, say, oh, he's got some silly little charge in his background, and he's not good enough to reign. And everyone's saying it, not just me now. Everyone's saying he's doing a really damn good job with these fires. He was opening up the cots. He was everywhere. Like the kind of guy that's like, wow, how is he there? He's there. He's everywhere. He knows everybody, right? He's doing a really good job. And he took 500 million megawatts of power that they were selling to Minnesota, and he didn't do anything bad with this Minnesota. He just basically said, okay, he let the contract end, and he said, he told the country, the Prime Minister and everyone else, that he's going to make it available. PJ up from the Nunavut territory, he says basically, yes please, right? Because up there, they're running on gas generators, and it's unbelievable. You can't fly sometimes in there for a month. They don't have like a 10-hour period, however long it takes to fly from wherever they are, right? Depending on where they are, to actually land in there. Yeah, there's points of the day that are clear, but not, you know what I mean? And not necessarily on scheduled on days, just because of the weather and our, it's very difficult. So they use fuel. And their local gossip is like, how's the fuel? You know what I mean? So they're using diesel generators. That works when you're in the jungle and you're starting a power plant. EGS, Electrical Generator Service, is an outstanding job. I wish I took that in the military. Didn't. But they have this. See, that's the looking glass. That's they had all that. You know what I mean? Issues. So Wab said, hey, why don't we do some transmission lines that goes from basically Churchill up along the coast all the way up to the capital of Nunavut, Iqaluit. And that would definitely need and require federal funding to come to fruition. You can't just, that's a province. It's a very, very high cost, and it's a national nation building project. As you know, we're having trouble with Trump and his 51 First thing, and all these other issues that have come to light with Trump. And the thing is someone say, oh, well, Trump will go away. Well, the problem is Trump basically. Just like the last time, things that one president does, the next president may also do. Maybe not as harsh and as large of a rhetoric, but they've opened the door. The possibility of it continuing on is very, very high. Just like the tariffs. The Democrats were complaining about these tariffs that the tariffs that Trump put on China. Well, when Biden got in, he left them. So anyway, this is a big nation-building project, just from Churchill all the way along the coasts, Hudson Bay, all the way up to Nunavut. Have these transmission lines. They may have to go underwater, part of it, of course. That to me is the most outstanding idea. I have it. You can see in the plans, like basically here. So. That also would be the hydropower from Manitoba, because there's a lot more. Manitoba, if you look at it, they have two very, very large, two bigger lakes than most countries have, and we don't even talk about it. We don't even talk about Lake Winnipeg and Lake Manitoba. It's unbelievable to me that we're not trying to nation build, or not trying to build a city or something around, especially in between. There's actually Candice Bergen mentioned, she's from there. Of course, she had mentioned when she was in Parliament, like they're losing people. These towns are losing people. I'm like, it's like beautiful. Like if you look on the map, it's like this is one of the most beautiful. But anyway, wherever you know what I mean. But you have to have a reason to go there. There has to be a big federal thing. So Churchill, to me, should be pushed because Wab Kinew, Premier, is talking about having a port there already to send out resources, and then they've been complaining. Alberta's whining, complaining. Same as Saskatchewan now. No pipelines. Well, you could put a pipeline right from the oil sands right across through Saskatchewan, right directly to Churchill, like in a perfectly straight line. It's like, why the heck am I the first one? I don't know. Maybe someone else talked about it or looked at it, and I'm just taking their idea. And you know what I mean, unbeknownst to me. But if you can see where the T is or the J, right there on this map, that's Churchill. And then if you go south from there, south and east a little bit, there's the Ring of Fire. Can you say get rid of our resources through Churchill? Also, they're going to be building a road down south to Thunder Bay. And right there, to me, and then if you go left from the T junction, you got bang. That's the oil sands all the way across. Now there's oil in southern Alberta and everything, and if they can get their oil there, it gets on ships, and that's how we make larger sales. We can sell our oil at least part of the year easily enough without all you need is an icebreaker up there, and then we can do it all year round. Get rid of the oil, sell the oil, and we sell our oil at a discount to America because basically because we can't sell it to anyone else, and they know. They kind of got us. So this is what we should be doing I believe. And hey, how do you fix the housing crisis without dropping the investment prices of all the elderly and all the people who bought into this drink? Well, you open up a city up in the Arctic. That's it. And they're like, so someone says you can't get a house. You know what they can say? Well, why don't you go to Churchill? Well, why don't you move up there? There's lots of work up there for you. There's lots of. That's all it is. That's it. Start with Churchill. The whole dream of having this, my dream, having the whole connection of it doesn't need to happen. But from that point, the T could be done, or at least the L, whatever, from down south down to I guarantee you there would be money. Investors, you don't have to put $1 into the investment money of the pipeline from there. But also a big problem with the oil sands is they need power. They have a problem getting power there. They want regular power. They don't want to do diesel. They don't want to burn their diesel and gas or whatever and have generators. It's highly expensive. But there's lots of power from Manitoba, hydropower, that can go from along that line. Just, Saskatchewan and Alberta's oil area can get, or part of their oil areas, because the Bakken is also in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. I think maybe also touching a little bit in Alberta now. But the Bakken field is down south, down in like Estevan would be the heart of it, Saskatchewan, and then it goes all the way east to Manitoba. So that's how they're doing it there. But and they could use rail, northern, not as heavily used. You know what I mean? When the grains go down south and they go empty on the way back, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas. But the definite part is Churchill. And it could be like basically everyone and the government employees says, you can't find a home, you're having trouble getting work, can't sell your steel, this and that. Well, boom. Let's start with one place, start the center of our country, and who even talks about Hudson Bay? Hudson Bay is a resource that we don't even touch. Why? Because there's like one city on it of Churchill. It's 40,000 people. 40,000 people. That's it. There's a rail that goes there that was bought by a bunch of private, I'll call them mavericks. These mavericks bought this train. It was going to be basically they were going to decommission it. Government's like, no idea. These guys are making money. You know what I mean? And they're doing it mavericks alone. Come on, this is a country of Canada. I think that they need to do this, and start with the heart and see how it goes. This is my opinion. It means nothing. Obviously, I don't know anything. But I do know that we need to have a thread to thread this country together. And it starts with Churchill. The most underdeveloped part in the world, basically in Canada. We have 50,000 people, of a city of 50,000 people, a couple of little towns. They're mostly in Manitoba, by the way. Moosonee, which isn't even on it. Moosonee's on a river, on Moose River, whatever. Beautiful place. It's a beautiful part of the country, and there's like 5 people. It could be I think Churchill could be a major international investment plot. You can just show the map to people and go to Germany and be like, look, see, this is what we're doing. We've already started the city and the building, and there's people there. And all of this talk about, no homes for the youth. Well, okay, older people and stuff like that who don't, but young people, if they start developing up there, they have a home and they can work up there, and it's easier to get people to move to a place when they can't afford a home, and there's a pressure. There's a release valve up there, but it's just Wab Kinew was the main one talking about this, and it seems to be the Prime Minister thus far has been pretty quiet about it, saying we're going to allow projects and we're going to. I don't know. I believe you have to have vision. True vision takes true boldness, and Churchill is a bold place that I'm going to be advocating forever. And no one's commenting and stuff, but that's my opinion on it. And you start with Churchill, but we're at a point in this country that we're actually these attacks on our country are going to continue. They're not going to be like, oh well, that's Trump's out. We're not going to try to expand into Canada or break apart. We're not. Basically, the housing crisis hasn't been fixed. Every year, actually, Ontario is trying to fix it, and the numbers went down. The Liberals tried to fix it. The numbers federally and provincially Ontario, which is the heart of most of the people, and Quebec, by the way, went down. How many builds are going down? They're just the economics of building is very difficult right now, and they thus far, even Ford government, they're focusing on the large companies because it's easier for them. I understand that, but that's not going to help. You have to have like many Mavericks to build the homes. They build a few homes and then go. But you have to have a lot. You have to have incentivized. You have to incentivize the banks. The banks don't take risk, and they're not going to take a risk on someone who isn't a large builder right now. Churchill. Put it in Churchill. We focus that. We can sell our steel until the calms down. At least 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. 5-year major project can eat up all of the steel that we have. Actually ramp up our steel. The concrete, and then we really literally won't have to worry because we buy more steel than from the States than we produce, and aluminum. So there's a large it's a vacuum, and we're not using it. I find it actually, to be honest, disappointing that no one since John A. Macdonald has realized, hey, let's actually try to thread this country together and build our Arctic, build north, because even 20 years ago, building up north was very difficult. We didn't have the building technologies readily available. They were there, but readily available. Now they're very easily done. Double pane, argon glass, and the insulation value. The insulation values are very, very high, and it doesn't have to be stone. Like you don't have to have 5 feet stone to have super insulation anymore. They have this system like it's a fiberglass. Literally, it looks like drywall. It's like dense glass, they call it. It's like that thick, an inch thick, and then you put your other surface over top of that. But that alone makes it like you're in a toasty little cave. You heat it with a candle. It's unbelievable to me. It's technology. Dense glass. It's yellow. If you see the high rises, maybe it'll come in other colors now. It's been 5 years since I've been working high rise, but which is too long. But they're saying, then we got CBC saying things like, well, we don't have the workers. Well, I'll tell you, I'm in the Niagara region, and I looked at Indeed, and there's not one job for a plumber. They're not looking for one in the last week. Not one. It's like, well, if you're not really looking, that means there's not a big demand. The housing is going down. How do you fix it? You open up a place where the premier wants to open up. They can get rid of the deplorables, right? You know what I mean? The people that are having a harder time getting a good paying job, and you go up there and build a city. I think, but you know what I mean? I don't want to frustrate myself and get upset over it. It's just a dream that I have that I believe that would stitch our country together in the best possible way, and instead of us, for at least a time, having to worry about selling our products to the States, because 80%, or the rest of the world, it'll give us time to expand our markets, and we can consume what we produce. It kind of makes sense. Canada can be, once again, a place where all people from all levels, any country in the world wants to come to, not just the countries that have poor governments, I'll call it, right, that have very bad governments that to their people. It'll be a place where Australians will want to come, and high-rising, high-flying people from Israel and stuff. And right now, it's not the case, unless you're super wealthy. The housing market is it's a detraction, and we're having troubles bringing in the top people that we want, and Trump is making it worse by making it more. By the tariffs, he's making it worse because he's making it more attractive to move to the States, and we don't want that. But that's the case. Okay. Please like, subscribe. I don't want, like I said, I'm not going to get upset about it. I don't want to be silly about it. But the idea of having a temperature pressure valve in the center of the country, and allowing oil investment to come in, because the oil investment, to have a pipeline there, it'll be there. It'll be there. If they build a port and say, oh, we're going to have a terminal zone to get rid of the oil and gas, by the way, to sell it, you have you know what I mean? You'll have the money, the people lining up, if it's approved. If it's government approved, it'll happen. Send the transmission lines of that 500 megawatts east, and maybe also north of Churchill along the coast of Hudson Bay, because there's some towns along there. Maybe I drew that up. It's obviously are debatable. No one made this. I made this myself, so there's thought behind it, but many minds make light work. So this is something that could happen with the transmission lines going to Synovus is one company. There's other companies now, but they have a new system. What they do is they superheat water and they pump it down there, in steam, and they melt the tar sand oil, and then they and then it flows down into these basins, and then they suck it up like a vacuum. So there's no digging. You look at I implore you to look at a Synovus site, and it's basically it looks like the forest. It looks like a little factory in the middle of a forest. It's very, very odd. They have a new system that they don't need to use that. So that types of system, and the upgraders need a lot of power to upgrade the oil. It's best to do it where you pump it. And all kinds of other things. There's all kinds of other chemicals involved. This is a disastrous zone, and everyone sees no oil signs. This is messy. But the power, at least, would be better if at least we're getting the power from hydro. And as time goes on and oil gets whatever, that those power lines to those places of cities could be happening, and they're there. Again, Laka sa Sakuraba. Have a good day.